Hello, my name is John Gully from the American College of Education with my Module 6 assignment, Instructional Leadership for Closing the Gaps. I want to apologize first off. I have a cold or something going on, so if I sniffle or sneeze or something, I apologize for the interruption. But this project is based on cumulative work throughout this course leading up to Module 6, and with that, we will proceed. So, this is me. One of the few pictures in my iPad, so I apologize, but vacation was on the horse, makes me happy. My role is the instructional leader. Obviously, there's a lot of roles involved in closing educational achievement gaps. There are a lot of roles in the building, and depending on what type of school you're a part of, the age group, from 3-year-olds all the way up to high school and college kids, these roles are somewhat similar with their goals, but how they achieve them, how they identify them in the day-to-day operations of these roles and the leadership that will push them will vary as varied as the students themselves and whatnot. So moving ahead, I will be the instructional leader for this exercise in this course. So my task, we need to conduct a gap analysis to determine where the gap exists. It's easy to just look at grades or to look at a class or talk to a teacher and have a brief conversation and determine where you think the gaps exist, but you truly need data. You have to be data informed and understand that this is a trend. This isn't one poor performance. This isn't one bad week, etc. This is a trend over time showing that there's an actual achievement gap that exists. So another part of my task will be identifying the needs and improvement areas where these gaps exist, the target audience, who exactly are we talking about, any existing potential achievement gaps down the road, and how this will affect learning outcomes, and also to maybe reevaluate our learning outcomes and find out exactly where we want to be, and more importantly, where we want these students to be when we're finished, with our instruction or the time we have with them or the goals we have, even if it's something micro like this grade year or macro, how will they be when they leave our institution? Will they be prepared for what's next? So taking all that into incorporation and moving forward, we have to create an action plan to close those gaps in a targeted manner and not just kind of throwing water at a larger, flower bed, but we need to get real specific. So the identified leading gap area they've been focusing on throughout this course, and it means a lot to me and it's very important to me, is kindergarten through 5th grade accelerated reading scores. The reading scores and the learning gains they make that they are associated with that. I am currently a principal of a pre-K 3 through 8th grade school with about 500 students, and literacy transcends everything we do and sets the stage for, what's next. And it's such an important thing to get right off the bat. So I've always been very passionate about things we do. We've tried a lot of things over the years. Resources have been dedicated to them, allocated, and we're always up for ideas, and we have different various accelerated reader committees, and we're constantly focusing on it in my institution just because we truly believe that it is vitally important. So we're going to focus on K-5 accelerated reading scores. We use the accelerating reading program where it is set up with a lot of baselines and basal scores and things like that, but it encourages students to read through a lot of internal programs we set up with goals and rewards and various programs and collaborative efforts between home and school and different grades to read more. In the reading scores, the software, we have all the more upgraded versions where we can not constantly, but as the kids take tests, there's various assessments that can be merged together. You can have all kinds of data that can help show you where the student's at in relation to being on grade level or where you need them to be. And then their overall learning gains across the board can be related by how they're progressing in reading. So the analysis tool we've chosen to use is the Accelerated Reader Program. Very robust software. I'd recommend it for any school that has the capability to bring this software in there and has books and things available to them to support this resource, as well as their academic performance. K through 5, their overall academic performance is heavily impacted by their literacy rate and their ability to comprehend what they're reading and disseminate it to others. So these are our analysis tools. So our target audience for these learning gaps are kindergartners through fifth grade students. Different students start reading at different ages, depending on what type of home they're raised. We have 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds that are reading at some pretty dynamic levels. But kindergartens, where we truly start pouring our resources into what's going on with this program. Our parents, parents are the primary educators in all that we do. Without reinforcement at home, without them, doing a lot of these strategies and reading with their children at home and backing it up, the odds of this aren't working. Is it possible? No, there are outliers. There are kids that succeed, with varying levels of engagement at home, but data shows dramatically that things are a lot more susceptible to take when they're reinforced at home. Teachers have to buy in. Teachers have to believe in what we're doing with reading. Teachers have to believe in the program, the Accelerated Reader program, and making it work as they are in there every day working with these students and facilitating this program. So they got to be on board as well. So they're a targeted audience as far as these learning gaps, and that could be a humble thing, saying that, one of your students is, falling behind, not being where they want to be, and thus creating a learning gap. On grade level, are they meeting their goals? Again, we have to determine that first. That's a whole nother presentation about what is on grade level and making goals. Again, data in research shows that goal making is a great way for us to progress at a faster pace than those who don't create goals. And I think us as adults, we see it in our lives too. We all have goals, and I think working towards them makes us better leaders and better human beings. And obviously our future targeted audiences, our future potential problems, cumulative snowballing. Reading is cumulative. Just about everything we do in school is cumulative. Yes, there are a handful of gifted students who just pick up everything and are absolutely ahead of the crowd, but the majority of us, everything is cumulative. And if we don't get this right at an early age, it snowballs. And you're handing this off to other teachers, other educators, and you're missing out on an opportunity to address this situation. Excuse me. So our targeted plan of action is putting in a little bit, three different things. So obviously we need to identify what's going on. Once we're confident with our identification of those students, those target audiences, and the actual learning gap that exists, for us, we're going to increase the performance accountability reviews. Traditionally, this happens every 9 weeks. We redo on top of their test for all the books that they're reading, we also do another diagnostic form of test to see where they're at and compare their data with the standards, as well as how they performed before, as well as against other students. When we identify a student who is, with their reading, is not meeting their goals and is showing significant, learning deficiencies, we can up this to a 2-week review where they can do these tests 2 weeks. And there is a shorter version of the test where we're not impacting a large amount of instructional time. And it's not a major assessment, so we're constantly testing the kids. But it does give us a little snack-sized tidbit of data that allows us to see where the student's at and allows us to make adjustments rapidly. Not at the end of 9 weeks, not when we have an opportunity after grades are in, but within those 2 weeks. And this takes us right into the second plan of this action, parent-student conferences. We're going to meet with the parents. We want to meet with the students to find out why this is going on. Heck, maybe the kids or the student is just struggling. People struggle all the time, but, possibly there's another factor going on. Maybe there's something going on at home. Maybe there's something traumatic going on in their lives. Maybe there's a learning disability that's beginning to emerge that we need to address with the appropriate people. There's a lot of potential issues, as we've discovered in Module 3 and 4, that are outside the realm of just data and scores and how they did. And we need to find that out through parent-student conferences that we're going to set up as our second part of the plan of action. And then third is curriculum adjustments. Potentially this is a gap that's facing the greater whole. Maybe there's a problem with the curriculum. Maybe there's a problem with the standards we've set. Maybe there's a problem with the resource we're using. All these things could be bigger than this one student, and there's a potential this one student has rose a red flag that could show us that we have a much bigger problem. So these 3 areas are going to be our plan of action to address these learning gaps, to address what's going on. And with this, we can do this constantly. We can, this is something that's going to go on throughout the whole year that can transcend just that school year, and we can move into following years. And with these 3 implemented ideas, we can, I hate to say hopefully, but we should address these gaps and get these students where they need to be. So constant adjustments. In closing, constantly adjusting, and I hate to say in closing because there is no closing. This is something that is ongoing, even as adults. I'm 42 years old and I'm pursuing a doctorate degree, reading comprehension and constantly learning new words, learning new ways to express myself, learning new ways to disseminate data. It never goes away. It's part of what we do. So there's constant analysis and review, and people need to understand that, from your teachers to your parents. Like, look, this isn't identifying a learning gap, closing it, and saying we're done and moving forward. No, we have to monitor. We have to constantly monitor and have preventative maintenance in place. Teamwork, using all your resources. I mentioned this a little bit easier, but it can't go unsaid, and sometimes it's harsh to say, but you have to have people who are all on board from top to bottom. This won't work if this program isn't implemented properly, if it's not implemented with passion, and if it's not implemented in a way that the students come first. And not to disparage teachers or aides or anything like that, but sometimes that can be a problem. So as the instructional leader, it is your duty, not your task, but it's your duty to all students in the organization, in the faith we have in what we do, and executing our duties to ensure that we are all working as a team, believe in the mission, and are moving forward towards that goal. So these are some of my references. I want to thank you for, not some of them, these are my references. I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to moving forward in this course into week 7. I hope you are well, and I thank you so much for your time. Thank you.